The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. This is Eric Seymour with the National Weather Service in Wakefield with the briefing this morning. Overall, for the next 7 days, things look to be fairly uneventful, although it does look like we're going to see a first taste of spring here over the next few days. So that's a good thing, getting us kind of through what's been a pretty active and eventful winter. So wanted to start off just looking at kind of current temperatures, and you can see the warming has pretty much already really started to take hold across good parts of Virginia, Northeast North Carolina, and is now spreading northward into parts of the Delmarva. So seeing some readings getting into the upper 60s as far north as Melfa. The frontal boundary is kind of laying kind of right across parts of Accomack, Northampton counties, stretching back through the northern neck and then back up into the Shenandoah Mountains. So, that's kind of where the boundary is. And if we actually look on the visible imagery, you can see that low clouds and fog that, were kind of hanging around earlier are really starting to erode away, heading farther north, allowing sunshine to come out. And as a result, we're seeing that warming trend really start to kick off. So that's actually should set us up for a fairly pleasant the next week at this point. So we will deal with a little bit of a boundary on Friday, and I'll talk about that here in a minute as we kind of go through the next couple of days. But overall, it should be pretty nice. So getting into the slide deck, I'm going to get the slides playing here. There we go. So today, you can see this was the depiction of where things kind of were about 7 o'clock this morning. So that frontal boundary is still sitting right there. It's gradually lifting northward. Notice the area of low pressure that's back across Indiana. That's going to be sliding eastward today. As it does, it's going to help bring the front farther to the north. But as we get through the part of the day tomorrow and that low gets off the coast, we're going to see part of that front want to back into the area again. So even though we'll be warm tomorrow for most of the area, especially a little bit concerning on the Delmarva, especially the Maryland lower eastern shore, when that boundary goes back through, we're going to see temperatures really kind of go back to where they've been the last few days. And that front's just kind of going to waffle there Friday night into Saturday before finally kind of dissipating. We get into broad southwest flow on Saturday with high pressure, kind of a little, weak Bermuda high setting up. So we'll have some southwesterly flow. The cold front that the models are depicting showing here on Sunday coming in will be a focus for showers, but there's not a lot of cold air behind it. So that front's kind of going to move through. We'll see temperatures fall back a little bit, getting back closer to where we should normally be this time of the year, which would be in the upper 50s to lower 60s for the early part of next week. And then we get back and the pattern sets up again. We get the broad southwest flow midweek. So you'll see temperatures again next week pushing back up into the 70s and maybe even some low 80 readings again before another front starts to impact us later next week. So right now, the next 7 days really from a temperature standpoint look to be much more spring-like as we're heading into kind of the middle of March. There is a chance we could see or could hear a rumble of thunder, especially west of I-95. Not really too concerned on Friday. I think it's more on Saturday where we could potentially, as temperatures are pushing up into the 80s, maybe we see a late afternoon shower develop. So could there be a rumble of thunder? Yeah, but at this point, really not expecting anything severe. And even as we get into the day on Sunday, again, not really expecting any kind of severe weather. Just some shower activity. And like I said, can't rule out a rumble of thunder, but I don't think at this point that's going to be a big factor for us. Really wanted to focus on the temperatures for today and tomorrow. Temperatures pushing up close to 80 today for a good part of the area. Over on the Delmarva, where you got a little bit of the influence still from the front going through, and also just the nearby water, things like that. It's going to hold temperatures down just a little bit. Still fairly pleasant and above normal into the low to mid 60s. So again, should be a fairly mild day. And you can see as we look through, temperatures really hold on even through 6 o'clock tonight, into the 70s for most of the area. So it should be even this evening should be fairly mild and comfortable. It's only when you get up toward Ocean City, up toward Salisbury overnight tonight, we'll see that kind of boundary try to back in a little bit and we start to cool things off just a little bit. But overall, for this time of the year, temperatures, in the, even in the mid 50s overnight are well above normal. So for the next few days, really wanted to stress, you can see there's a pretty wide difference across the area. Part of that is where that backdoor boundary sets in tomorrow. So the Delmarva is going to be a little bit cooler. Northern Neck, this is kind of where that battle zone where we're trying to figure exactly where that front's going to get to early in the day to kind of hold see where areas may temperatures get held down a little bit. But south of that front, it's pretty mild. So I mean, we're talking from, if you look across our entire forecast area, if you go from Mecklenburg all the way up toward, Dorchester and Wicomico counties up in Maryland, we're talking like a 35-degree difference across that area. So, that where that boundary sets up will be a factor. But right now, it definitely looks like, Richmond Metro, south and west, it's going to be fairly mild. I think as you get closer to the Bay, Gloucester, Matthews, those areas, that's going to be where you may see it warmer earlier, even in through the kind of mid-afternoon hours. And then once that boundary comes in, you're going to see temperatures really start to back off again for Friday night. That frontal boundary erodes, kind of dissipates. We get in the broad southwest flow. And once we get the broad southwest flow, that's going to help everybody warm up, even on the shore, because we'll get away from the influence of the maritime air mass. We'll get more of the southwesterly flow, more flow coming off of land mass. So that should help things warm up for Saturday and on Sunday. So overall, it looks like it's going to be from a temperature standpoint, a fairly nice weekend in that respect. So when we look at rainfall totals, really through Sunday, really not anticipating a whole lot. Could there be, a little bit of light rain as that area of low pressure slides off the coast tonight up in Maryland? Yes, there could be a little bit of light showers. But again, we're not looking at really kind of any kind of heavy QPF. And then even through Saturday, what the models are trying to show something kind of developing along the Lee Trough with the heating of the day. Not sure in mid-March if that's really going to be wanted to develop. If we were in April, I'd be a little bit more concerned about more widespread activity. But, being that we're in March, the dew points aren't very high. We don't have a ton of moisture to work with. Not really necessarily thinking we're going to see a lot of, heavy type rainfall on Saturday. Maybe a few spotty showers develop in the afternoon, but that's really about it. I think the better chance for rain is actually on Sunday. As the front actually comes in, it gives us a little bit of a focusing mechanism. So this map here kind of shows what we're thinking precipitation-wise from Sunday through Thursday morning. And right now, the only thing that really would be exciting is that boundary on Sunday as it comes in. So the bulk of whatever rainfall you're seeing here would be expected on Sunday. So, maybe we could see, getting up toward a half-inch Richmond south as you get a little bit more moisture as that boundary comes in during the day on Sunday into Sunday evening. But again, really not seeing anything that really suggests anything, too heavy, or even from a, thunderstorm standpoint, anything really developing that would be, in the neighborhood of being severe at this point. So just maybe some general showers. And right now, even though we've been a little bit wet over the last, week and a half, 2 weeks, most of the area is still pretty solidly in drought. So we can use rainfall at this point, especially as we're coming toward the end of the winter season and that recharge period. So for the river streams, things like that, for the groundwater, we can use the rainfall still. So, wouldn't really, wouldn't be bad if we saw even a little bit more rainfall than what's being depicted here. So looking at your daily forecast right now, you see the numbers are really warm. And even as we get out, you see a little bit of a cooler spell on Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, we warm back up again as we get into the southwesterly flow. As we would get out to Thursday and Friday next week, that may be where we start to see the next front coming in and giving us a chance for some more rainfall. But at this stage, that far out, there's a lot of uncertainty and timing and things of that nature. So that'll be something we'll be watching over the next few days. But right now, it's really more of a scenario. If we're going to get rain, it's going to be in that Sunday afternoon into Monday morning time period. So looking at the drought across the area, like I said, we've had some pretty beneficial rains over the last last couple of weeks that have helped with this. This map really hasn't changed much from the depiction last week. When I compared it, they were almost exactly identical. So most of the area is still sitting in the D1, the moderate drought. The far southwest, you've been in drought for quite a bit longer, so you're kind of more in that severe drought. So right now we have, you're not in the growing season yet, so we're not really starting to use a lot of that water. But once we go in the, trees start to bud out, things like that, we're going to start seeing some of that water being used up. So right now, any additional rainfall we can get would be very beneficial and helpful. Temperatures, over the next week, getting up into where they are, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the trees start to say, hey, let's get ready to go. I wouldn't be surprised to start seeing some budding and things of that nature going on. So once that happens, we're going to see some of the, groundwater and things like that that are kind of building up right now, starting to get used and depleted pretty quickly with as things start to grow and spring starts to hit. Looking out 8 to 14 days out right now, right now, I'm not seeing anything that's really in the models that are suggesting any real cold snaps. Maybe as we get to the back end of the 14-day outlook, the back end of that 2-week period, maybe we start to see a little bit of models are hinting that there might be another little shot of cold air trying to come down. Right now, I would think from what I'm seeing, it's kind of focused a little bit more on the Northeast, Great Lakes Northeast, not so much down Mid-Atlantic. But again, 2 days out, things can change, things of that nature. And it does look like, how things are developing, there is going to be some chances for rain over the next 2-week period. So that could be beneficial, as we were just talking about with the drought. Marine potential, not much going on the marine side right now through the next 5 days. Maybe Saturday night into Sunday morning, we could see a little bit in the southwesterly flow. We could see a little bit of small craft conditions, and they're likely to be limited to the bay and the air in the rivers, not so much in the coastal waters. I'm looking really kind of 15, 20 knots is kind of the expected range. And you can see that on the map here. Just, that time period, late Saturday into early Sunday morning with the southwest flow, could see conditions get up just close to small craft. Again, I think it's probably more limited onto the bay than necessarily on the coastal waters. So that's your look, kind of your summary all the way out in time. Again, as we get out later in the period, that southwest flow kicking ahead of the next front on Thursday. Again, we could see, some higher winds, but again, that's pretty far out. A lot of uncertainty at this point, so we'll see kind of how things evolve as we get to end of next week. All right, so that's everything that we have as far as the briefing goes. Like I said, looks like from a weather standpoint should be, considering how cool and chilly things have been, I think for most folks they'll enjoy having the warmer weather. Again, biggest difference is kind of what we expect to see on the Delmarva, dealing with that backdoor front and the front kind of moving north, moving back south over the next couple of days. You'll see some variation. There'll be some period of time where it's warmer up there, and then you'll see some other time where it may be a little bit chillier. So, but overall, I think things, over the next 7 days should be, from a weather standpoint, should be pretty benign as far as any impactful weather. So with that being the case, wish everybody a good weekend, and we will talk to you all again soon. Have a great day.